Hello friends, a very good evening to all of you. And welcome to the 10 p.m. daily editorial answer writing session. In these sessions, I pick the most important editorial from the point of view of examination, and then I try to analyze that editorial from the mains point of view, and then I try to frame one question on the editorial and try to write a model answer. Okay, so let us begin. So today I have selected an editorial from the polity section of the syllabus. Okay, and this editorial is very important because, just one second, let me just share this editorial. Okay, yeah, so I hope this editorial is visible. The topic of the editorial is electoral bonds. The topic of the editorial is electoral bonds. So let me first tell you, okay, from which part of the syllabus, okay, this topic comes from. Okay, this topic will come in GS paper 2, polity section. In polity section, it will come where? In elections or electoral reform. Electoral reform. You can put this topic into electoral reform. Okay, so let us first try to analyze the editorial, and after we analyze the editorial, we will try to write a model answer. So let me just start the analysis. So the author says that the late last year, Union government has authorized the 19th partial of the electoral bond. So 19 times since 2018, when this electoral bonds were started, till then 19 times this has been allowed. 19 times this has been allowed, and this 19th time was allowed because assembly elections are coming. Okay, so then the author basically starts criticizing the electoral bond scheme, and the major criticism of the author against the electoral bond scheme is that it is non-transparent. It is opaque. Okay, and we all know that whenever there is lack of transparency, there is probability of corruption. So lack of transparency, okay, there is probability of corruption. Okay, here I would like to share with you a formula. Corruption is equal to what? Corruption is equal to, okay, corruption, basically, if you see corruption, okay, the more the accountability is, okay, the more the accountability is, the less is the corruption. And transparency leads to accountability. So when there is no transparency, there is no accountability. And in a democracy, okay, accountability is a must. Accountability is said to be the lifeblood of democracy. So where there is no accountability, there obviously there cannot be any there will be huge chances of corruption. Okay, next, the author also says that the Supreme Court, okay, the Supreme Court has not taken up this issue and has not given importance to this issue. It should have given importance to this issue and should have stopped this electoral bonds, because this electoral bonds have basically encouraged anonymous funding. The author talks about. Okay, then what the bond author says that in this bond scheme, the political parties have no obligation. About sharing from who has donated them. So there is no obligation of political parties to share what, who has donated what amount of money to them. Okay, who has donated what amount of money to them. So basically it is like this entire scheme is shrouded in basically secrecy. If you say it is shrouded in secrecy, and the people, okay, the people who are the voters, they must have the information. They must have the information that which party is getting donation from which corporate house. When the people will not have the knowledge, they cannot take the decision which party to vote for. Okay, because people vote according to the decisions, and people vote to decide according to the information they have. And since this scheme does not provide any information, then that choice of the voter will not be will not be good. Okay, the basically the author says that there is right to know, right to know. Okay, and this right to know comes under basically article 19, which is freedom of speech and expression. It includes right to know also for the voters. Okay, so that is what the author talks about. And then basically it has author has come out with various other points which what the author has said that recently government has taken 2-3 steps, okay, which has basically increased the chances of corporates giving fund to the political parties for quid pro quo, for quid pro quo. So what are these amendments which have been brought up by the government in electoral bond scheme? So first amendment which the government brought was that previously when the scheme was introduced in the budget of 2017, there was a bar that maximum 7.5% of the net profit of a corporate house can be donated to political parties through electoral bonds. So no corporate house could give more than 7.5% of their net profit to the political parties through electoral bonds. But this was done away with. But this was done away with. So this was like major change which has happened. And what it will happen that it will lead to many companies, okay, many companies which are just set up, to give funds to political parties. Okay, the second change which was made was initially it was said that any company must be operating for at least 3 years to be eligible for buying this electoral bonds. Okay, that was also done away with. So this means the author says that it will encourage money laundering. Many shell companies, here the author uses the word called shell companies. Many shell companies, here you see the author uses this word called shell companies. Many shell companies, okay, will be set up just to launder money. So this is a very important point which you can make out here, is that these two provisions which were there initially in this electoral bond scheme have now been done away with, which basically had some protection that this corporate fundings, okay, will be limited. But now the manner in which this has been done away with, it will lead to many corporate houses set up just to launder money. Okay, that is what this editorial talks about. Then this editorial has talked about that Supreme Court should uphold the right of voters to know. Okay, but it has not done that. It has ignored these concerns. There were many PILs which were filed in Supreme Court to discontinue this electoral bond scheme, but still the Supreme Court has not gone and it has not stayed this electoral bond scheme. Okay, one point. Second, what this author has said is that Election Commission of India had also raised concern that this anonymity will lead to various problems. But those concerns were basically not taken by the government, seriously. Okay, here I would like to give one more point which is not mentioned in this article. The RBI had also some concerns regarding this electoral bond scheme. Okay, one important point which I would like to make here, this electoral bond scheme, how it operates is that anyone, any individual or any corporate house, okay, they can buy, okay, they can buy these electoral bonds, okay, from the SBI, from the SBI. So only one bank is mandated to basically sell this electoral bonds, and that is SBI. Okay, you can only buy from SBI. Okay, so RBI has said that it should be given the responsibility to basically give electoral bonds. SBI must not be given, it should be given the responsibility. Okay, that was the first point of RBI. The second point of the RBI was that it will basically lead to money laundering. It will lead to money laundering because many uh, many political parties will try to launder money, black money, through these corporate houses, So the main concern why this electoral bonds were introduced was to fight black money. That was the main concern. Here I would like to quote the speech of the finance minister, okay, when he introduced this electoral bonds. His main concern was that there was huge black money used in the electoral system and during elections. So if we bring this electoral bonds, and since these electoral bonds are basically through the channel of banking, so it will remove black money from the economy. But here the RBI says that since this electoral bonds, the way it has been basically made, okay, there are huge possibilities that money, black money, will be laundered through this scheme, this scheme. So the purpose of electoral bonds will be defeated. The purpose of electoral bonds will be defeated. So here, if you see here, it has also briefly mentioned what was the concern of RBI. So what we can take out some points. What we can take out is both the Election Commission of India and the RBI. RBI, we all know, is the monetary regulator. Okay, and Election Commission of India is the constitutional body responsible for holding free and fair election. Okay, both these bodies had raised concern regarding this electoral bond schemes. However, these concerns were not taken sincerely by the government, and government went on with this scheme of electoral bonds with an objective of stamping out of black money from the electoral funding process. Okay, that was the thing. Okay, here then author goes on and to quote goes on to quote various legal luminaries, like it quotes, okay, Chief Justice MC Chagla of Bombay High Court, who had raised concerns regarding corporate funding of political parties. He had raised concern regarding corporate funding of political parties, and he said that this will go on to throttle the Indian democracy. The word uses throttle the Indian democracy. So you can use that. The Chief Justice of Bombay High Court, MC Chagla, okay, one of the most famous judges which independent India has had, has raised concerns regarding corporate funding. Okay, next, there is also the name of Justice PB Mukherjee of the Calcutta High Court, has also raised concerns regarding corporate funding. He has said that never ever a citizen can compare himself with a big corporate house, which can basically, they can invest much money in political parties. Okay, so it basically, corporate funding, what it does, that it does not, like the one man one vote, okay, that thing, the importance of two men in a democracy must be equal. But because of this corporate funding, because corporates have deep pockets, so they can basically fund the like political parties with huge sum. Okay, that is the point he tries to make here. Okay, basically overall the point is that the individual voter does not have any idea about from where the political parties are getting the funds. So it cannot evaluate the policies of political parties. It cannot evaluate the political parties. Thus, he cannot make the decision which political party to vote, because every voter should have information. Right to know, okay, is a part of right to freedom of speech and expression. So overall, if I can tell you, okay, overall I can tell you, okay, first of all, there are some points which are important from the prelims point of view. That point is that electoral bond scheme was introduced in the budget 2017 and for the first time implemented in 2018. Okay, till now 19 times electoral bonds have been started. Okay, 19 times it has been started. And one more point is that SBI is the only bank which is mandated to sell this electoral bonds, and these bonds are denominated ranging from 1000 rupees to 1 crore, 1000 rupees to 1 crore. And one more point in prelims point of view is that if once the political party, okay, gets these bonds, it has to redeem within 15 days. Within 15 days, if it fails to do, that money will go to the PM relief. Okay, that money will go to the PM relief fund. Okay, this thing you should keep in mind from the prelims point of view. From the mains point of view, basically the criticism against this electoral bond scheme, and the main criticism is that it basically encourages anonymity. It basically encourages opacity, lack of transparency, and which may lead to crony capitalism, Already India has concerns of crony capitalism. Okay, crony capitalism. And these electoral bond schemes can basically encourage crony capitalism. Further, concerns of Election Commission of India, which is responsible for holding free and fair elections, are that without this knowledge of that from where these political parties are getting fund, even Election Commission cannot perform its role of free and fair elections properly. Secondly, the RBI has also raised concerns about why should SBI be given the role, why not RBI? And second, it also had concerns regarding money laundering. Overall, if you see, the interest of voters are compromised. Interest of voters, taxpayers are compromised, and interest of political parties and corporates are basically protected, because what happens is that, okay, the corporate house also remains anonymous, and the political parties also don't have to declare from where what fund they have received, and how these funds are influencing the decisions these political parties are taking while in government. Okay, another criticism of this scheme which the opposition parties have leveled is that, see, at present only the voters cannot know, and some opposition parties cannot know who is donating what to the political parties. But since all the information is there with the SBI, and we all know that SBI, okay, although SBI is an a statutory bank, okay, but okay, it is controlled by the finance ministry. Okay, so what we can do, government can have information about who is donating to what, and that is why majority of electoral bonds are with the government, with the party which is forming the government. So basically what happens that the ruling party will have some benefits over the opposition parties, okay, because it can have the information who is donating what, and corporate houses will also donate to the ruling party only because they will fear that if the ruling party will get to know that we are donating to some other political parties, opposition parties, then they can be penalized. So overall, this is not good for Indian democracy. The sense of the editorial is, it is not good for Indian democracy. It is not good for free and fair elections. It is not good for the people of the country. Okay, that is the overall sense of the article, and it must be reviewed by Honorable Supreme Court. It has to be reviewed by the Honorable Supreme Court. Now let me just take you to the question which I have framed, and let us try to answer. Let us try to write a small model answer to this question. So just 1 second you give me. I'll just show you the question which I have framed on the topic. Okay, I'll just show you the question which I have framed on the topic. So the question is, do you think, the question is, do you think, okay, do you think the, okay, introduction of electoral bonds have worsened the system of electoral funding examined? Okay, so the question says, do you think it has worsened? It has worsened. Okay, so first of all, we must say what was the basic problem before in electoral funding. So the basic problem before electoral funding was black money, okay, that was the basic basically unaccounted money or black money. Okay, unaccounted cash and black money was the basic problem. Okay, so the question says that it has worsened, do you think? Okay, so what first you have to write? First you have to write what is this electoral bonds, what is this electoral bonds. Okay, and then we have to write what was the previous problem, okay, in the introduction only you have to write this, and what problem this electoral bond wanted to solve and how it wanted to solve. So previous problem, we can write electoral bonds are interest free bearer instruments, which anyone can buy to donate money to political parties. In simple words, this is a simple definition of electoral bonds. Then you can write that previously most of the money which was donated to political parties were in cash and they were unaccounted, So in order to solve this problem of use of black money or unaccounted money in electoral funding, government came out with this proposal of electoral bonds. That is the introduction you will write. This is the introduction you are going to write, which I have talked about. So what you have done, we have defined what are electoral bonds. We have defined that. Then what we have done, we have briefly written what was the previous scenario, and then we have written how this electoral bond is going to solve the previous scenario. How it intend to, not it is not going to solve, how it intend to. Then we'll change the paragraph and we'll write one subheading. We'll say that criticisms of electoral bonds or electoral bonds worsening the situation. Then we'll write 1, 2, 3 points like it is anonymity, it leads to crony capitalism, it is against the interest of the voters, like that, it is against the opposition, like that we will write. It is against the opposition, it favors the ruling party, like that we'll write 3, 4, 5 points criticisms. We'll write the criticism of RBI, we'll write the concerns of Election Commission of India. See, these are very important. Whenever you write answers, we have to use authoritative text. What do I mean by authoritative text? Text where have come from some committee of the government, some commission of the government, some Supreme Court judgment, or some constitutional body. So here we all know that Election Commission of India is a constitutional body, and it is the sole and whole body responsible for holding free and fair election. And if Election Commission has raised concerns regarding electoral bonds, then it is one of the biggest criticism of electoral bonds. Second, RBI has also raised concerns that why should SBI must be given this responsibility of selling these electoral bonds. And second, it might lead to money laundering. Then what you can say that little bit some protection was there in the original electoral bond scheme, that has also been done away with, which is the 7.5% and the 3 years bar, that has also been done away with. Now that scheme can be used completely for this money laundering thing. Okay, then you can write major criticism, one more criticism you can write. Then in the end you should write that as under the Indian Constitution we all have right to freedom of speech and expression, and this includes right to know. And it is very important for an free and fair election that citizens must have the complete information about which which corporate house are funding which political parties, or which political parties are getting fund from where. Then only they can make these proper decisions, and they can make the political parties accountable, because accountability is the lifeblood of democracy. In the end, what you can do is you can give some suggestions. You can give some suggestions that some protections need to be brought in electoral bond scheme. You cannot give a radical suggestion that this scheme is not at all good and this must be scrapped. Don't give such a radical statement. Just give statements where basically you try to suggest something positive. How can this scheme be improved? So we have to bring more transparency into the scheme, okay, where political parties have to declare to the election commission how much money they have received through electoral bonds, and these electoral bonds have been given by or bought by which corporate houses. Okay, that information, if the political parties give it to election commission, and election commission gives this information on its website, then the problem will be solved. Similarly, these corporate houses should mention in their annual financial statement to which political parties they have given the fund. And these protections which were there in the beginning, that 7.5% of the net profit can only be given as electoral bonds. And the second protection was that no company which has not been running profitably for the last 3 years, those companies can only give. Okay, so these two things you can bring, these 2-3 things you can bring. And you can also talk about here the role of civil society, role of citizens, and role of Honorable Supreme Court in basically keeping a check that this electoral bond scheme should not be misutilized by political parties to launder money, or misutilized by these corporate houses to basically promote their own interest at the interest of the voters. And crony capitalism should not be encouraged. Okay, that you can write. In the end, you can just write that free and fair election is essential part of democracy, and without free and fair elections, democracy cannot survive. With this, you can conclude the answer. So if you like this discussion, the answer writing approach which I have shared with you, and the discussion of the editorial, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and please share it to your friends. Because see, learning process is more of a in a group. When we learn in a group, okay, when we try to share these answers with your friends also, try to get their feedback. You can also write your answers in the website. You can also write their answers in the website, and people have started writing it. I have not declared the name yet. Okay, I'll declare in 1 or 2 days when more number of people write, because still I am seeing very few people are writing it. So if you write before 9:30, on the website, I will declare that name of the winner of the answer writing contest every day. I'm going to release the name of the winner.